Brazil and Japan face off in the round of 32 of the 2026 World Cup in a match that promises a lot, because we're talking about one of the big favorites for the title against a Japanese team that has already shown it can compete against anyone. Brazil comes in as the leader of its group, with the obligation to win and the pressure of an entire country watching every detail. Japan, on the other hand, comes in with less media pressure, but with a very clear idea. Run, press, make things uncomfortable, and take the match to a scenario where Brazil doesn't feel comfortable. So let's get straight to what many of you are looking for. What time is the Brazil versus Japan match played, country by country? In Spain, the match is played at 1900 on Monday, June 29th. In Portugal, it will start at 1800 In Brazil, the ball will start rolling at 1400 In Japan, the match will start at 02-00 in the early morning due to the time difference. In Mexico, the match will kick off at 11 o'clock Central Time. In the United States, since it's being played in Houston, these will be the schedules. On the East Coast, like New York or Miami, it will be at 1 o'clock p.m. In the Central Zone, like Houston, Dallas, or Chicago, it will start at 12 noon, 12 o'clock p.m. In the Mountain Zone, such as Denver, it's at 11 o'clock a.m. on the West Coast. Los Angeles, San Francisco, or Seattle, it starts at 10 o'clock a.m. In Canada, Toronto and Montreal will experience it from 1 o'clock p.m. Winnipeg, from 12 o'clock p.m. Calgary and Edmonton, from 11 o'clock a.m. and Vancouver, from 10 o'clock a.m. in Colombia, Peru, and Ecuador. The match will start at 12 noon, 12 o'clock p.m. In Venezuela, Bolivia, Paraguay, and Chile, it will start at 1 o'clock p.m. In Argentina, Uruguay, and Brazil, it will be at 2 o'clock p.m. In Costa Rica, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, and Nicaragua, the match will start at 11 o'clock a.m. And in Panama, it will be at 12 o'clock noon. So now you know, set your clocks right, because this is no longer a group stage match. This is a knockout round. The winner stays alive. The loser goes home. Brazil wants to show that they are ready to fight for the World Cup, but Japan comes in hoping to pull off one of the biggest surprises of the tournament. Block 2, where to watch Brazil versus Japan, TV channels and platforms, by country. And now let's move on to one of the sections you asked for the most in all these videos, where to watch Brazil versus Japan live. Because depending on the country you're in, the broadcast changes completely. Let's start with Brazil, where this match brings the country to a standstill. The match can be watched for free on TV Globo, as well as on pay TV via Sport TV and Cafe TV for streaming. In Japan, the match can be watched on NHK, TV Asahi, and the official platforms with World Cup broadcasting rights. In Spain, the match will be available on La One of Spanish television, completely free to air. Also on RTVE Play, to watch it from any device. And also on DAF Mundial, which offers complete coverage of the tournament. In Portugal, the match will be broadcast by Sport TV. In Mexico, it can be followed on Canal 5 Las Estrellas, 2DN, and the ViX platform. In the United States, there will be two main options. In English, the match will be available on Fox. In Spanish, the broadcast will be available on Telemundo, as well as Fox Sports app, Fox One, Fubo, and Peacock. In Canada, the match will be broadcast on TSN, CTV, and RDS. In Colombia, it can be followed on Caracol Television, RCN, D Sports, and DGO. In Argentina, it will be available on Telefe, Tizzy Sports, D Sports, and DGO. In Chile, on Televisión, D Sports, and DGO. In Peru, on America Television, D Sports, and DGO. In Ecuador, on Teleamazonas, D Sports, and DGO. In Venezuela, on Televen, D Sports, and DGO. In Bolivia, on Red Uno Unitel, D Sports, and DGO. In Paraguay, on Tigo Sports, D Sports, and DGO. In Uruguay, the main option will be D Sports and DGO, in addition to the national operators with rights. And if you're following us from Central America, take note. In Costa Rica, on Teletica. In Guatemala, on Chapin TV. In El Salvador, on TCS. In Honduras, on Televicentro. In Nicaragua, on Canal 10. And in Panama, on RPC TV and TVN. So now you know. Brazil versus Japan, round of 16. Knockout stage and a match nobody wants to miss. Now comes the important part. How is Brazil coming into this? What doubts does Ancelotti have? What role can Neymar play? And why could this knockout matchup be much more complicated than it seems? Let's get to what's really important. How is Brazil coming into this round of 16? The reality is that the Canarinha has clearly improved as the World Cup has progressed. Carlo Ancelotti's team started the tournament with some doubts in their debut, where they drew against Morocco in a very evenly matched game. However, the reaction was immediate. Brazil defeated Haiti convincingly and ended up securing the top spot in the group with a very convincing victory against Germany, a match in which they probably showed their best performance since the championship began. And that's exactly what brings the most calm to the Brazilian locker room, the feeling that the team is growing at the right moment. World Cups aren't won by the teams that start the strongest. They're won by the team that reaches the knockout stage in the best shape, and Brazil gives the impression of having found that balance that Ancelotti was looking for so much. The Italian coach has managed to build a much more solid team than many expected. Brazil still has a lot of talent up front, but now they also show security when they don't have the ball, and that was precisely one of the biggest concerns before the World Cup started. If we talk about specific names, there's one that's attracting all the attention: Neymar. After finally overcoming his physical problems, number 10 has been growing game by game. Against Germany, he once again showed flashes of his best form. He was constantly involved in creating plays, and he showed that he's still the kind of player who can change any knockout round with a single move. But Neymar is not alone, because around him there are players who are in extraordinary form. Vinicius Jr. is being a real headache for opposing defenders. His speed, his ability to break through one-on-one situations, and his understanding with Neymar are creating a lot of goal-scoring opportunities. On the other side, Rafinha is having a very solid World Cup. A lot of work off the ball, constant depth, and an enormous ability to show up in important moments. In the midfield, Bruno Guimaraes and João Gomes are providing balance, intensity, and ball distribution. Meanwhile, the defense, led by Marquinhos and Gabriel Magalhaes, has barely conceded any clear chances in the last two matches. And in goal, there's a reliable presence like Alisson Becker, who once again brings the calmness that every title contender needs. But Ancelotti has insisted all week on a very clear idea. The group stage doesn't matter anymore. Now, another World Cup begins. Now, any mistake sends you home. There's no room to make up for it anymore. That's why inside the Brazilian locker room, no one underestimates Japan. Quite the opposite. The coaching staff believes that they could be one of the most difficult opponents in these round of 16 because Japan presses very high. They run for the full 90 minutes. They make very few mistakes, and they take advantage of any slip-up from their opponent. Brazil knows perfectly well that they will have the ball for many minutes. The big question is whether they will be able to break through the Japanese defensive wall without getting frustrated, because if they manage to score early, the match could open up completely. But if the minutes go by and the score remains tied, the pressure will start to build. And that's exactly when the experience of players like Neymar, Vinicius, or Marquinhos will come into play. Because Brazil doesn't just want to qualify, Brazil wants to send a message to the other favorites. They want to show that they're ready to win a World Cup again. But to achieve that, first, they'll have to get past the Japanese team that comes in with absolutely nothing to lose.